Coming to you from deep inside the bowels of a great big empty. Get ready for another episode of The Home Defense Show with Skip Coryell.
That was Golden Glenn, the official announcer of the Home Defense Show, and I'm your host, Skip Coryell, author of 22 books, Marine Corps veteran, founder of the Second Amendment March, proud father of 7, grandfather to 19 and counting, and as a special bonus, I'm also madly in love with my own wife. My priorities in life are God, family, and country in that order, and I hereby promise to never compromise in my convictions. I may go broke, but I'll never go woke. And joining me today is my faithful co-host and adoring wife, Sarah Coryell. Sarah, Merry Christmas.
Thank you, and Merry Christmas to you. It's great to be here again.
We have all these Christmas traditions that we do at our house. One thing that we do is we watch Christmas movies, but there's something else that we do. Talk about that for a second.
Well, this year we added listening to A Christmas Carol, an audiobook.
The Charles Dickens Christmas Carol.
Yes.
The original. The narrator was Tim Curry.
He does a great job. If you haven't had a chance to listen to it, I highly recommend it.
Yeah, just check that out on Amazon. You can get the audiobook. It was really, really good. It took us like 4 nights to do that.
Even our 18-year-old listened to at least part of it.
Yes, yes. But I really enjoyed it myself.
My daughter and I were talking about it all through the day. Wait till story time tonight.
Folks, we need to get back to things like that. Instead of having our faces in electronic devices all the time, sit down, read books, play board games, things like that with your family, especially over Christmas when you've got a little bit more time away from work. All right, well, Sarah, so what's on the show today?
First, we'll speak with Royce Bartlett, the host of the Shooting Straight Radio podcast, all about DEI. Then we'll discuss a self-defense scenario in our shootingclasses.com self-defense report, again with Royce Bartlett from Florida.
But before we get too far into the show, let's thank our sponsors, United States Concealed Carry Association, shootingclasses.com, and Center Shot Indoor Gun Range. And now it's time for our Home Defense Show Quotes of the Week. And today we have a joint quote, and it's truly the greatest story ever told. And it goes like this.
In those days, Caesar Augustus issued a decree that a census should be taken of the entire Roman world. This was the first census made when Quirinius was governor of Syria. All went to enroll themselves, everyone to his own city. Because he was of the house and family of David, Joseph left the city of Nazareth in Galilee and went up to Judea, to the city of David, which is called Bethlehem. He did so to enroll himself with Mary, who was pledged to be married to him as wife and who was pregnant. While they were there, the time came for her to deliver her child. She gave birth to her firstborn son and wrapped him in swaddling clothes. She laid him in a manger because there was no room for them in the inn. There were shepherds in the same countryside, staying in the field and keeping watch by night over their flock. And behold, an angel of the Lord stood by them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were terrified. The angel said to them, "Do not be afraid, for behold, I bring you good news of great joy, which will be for all the people. For there is born to you this day in the city of David a Savior, who is Christ the Lord. This is the sign to you. You will find a baby wrapped in strips of cloth, lying in a manger." Suddenly there was with the angel a multitude of the heavenly host, praising God and saying, "Glory to God in the highest, and on earth, and good will among mankind." When the angels went away from them into heaven, the shepherds said to one another, "Let us go to Bethlehem now and see what has taken place, which the Lord has made known to us." They came with haste and found both Mary and Joseph, and the baby was lying in the manger. After seeing it, they revealed the news which had been spoken to them about this child. All those who heard what the shepherds were saying were amazed, but Mary kept all these sayings, pondering them in her heart. The shepherds returned, glorifying and praising God for all the things which they had heard and seen, just as it was told them.
I think that's a pretty good story.
That's a great story.
Well, it is Christmas time, and we should read that at least once a year. One of my favorite readings of that is from Linus on the Charlie Brown Christmas. I absolutely adore the way he reads that. I mean, not as good as you, but he still does pretty good,
He does a great job.
for a kid,
He
right?
does a great job.
I can still hear his voice in my mind. If you haven't seen A Charlie Brown Christmas, You need to watch that and watch it with your kids. It is absolutely fantastic. And folks, please remember the true meaning of Christmas. And now it's time for our home defense show hero of the week. Who's our hero this week, Sarah?
Oh, you guys are going to love this story. Canadian man suffers injuries defending wife from polar bear attack. A man suffered severe injuries early Tuesday after defending his wife from a polar bear attack right in his driveway in Canada. He leapt onto the polar bear to prevent it from mauling his wife, causing serious injuries to his arm and legs. The victim is expected to recover. Reports of gunfire drew police from the Fort Severn First Nation detachment to the residence. Police said they found a dead polar bear at the scene. They learned the husband was taken to the community nursing station for evaluation and treatment of his wounds. The couple had gone out to search for their dogs at approximately 5 a.m. when the bear attacked the wife. The victim's wife slipped and fell onto the ground as he came to her defense. After that, the polar bear caused the man serious but non-life-threatening injuries. A neighbor showed up with a firearm and shot the bear multiple times during the incident. The offending animal fled into a forested area nearby where it died from its gunshot wounds. To prevent further danger, police conducted a search of the area to ensure that other bears were not present in the community.
Something tells me that my job as a protector and defender bar just got raised. I think it would be easier to go up against a man with a gun or a man with a knife than it would be to go up against a polar bear.
There was some raw courage involved in jumping on a polar bear.
Yes, that's the true test of love
Oh,
right there.
no, it's just courage, absolutely, yes.
Well, courage and love.
Yeah.
That's what drives us, right?
I have a little question, though.
What's that?
Where'd the dogs go? Did they ever find them? She went out to look for the dogs. I think they were bear
That's the difference between you and me. I don't even care.
I think they got eaten by the polar bear.
Well, I suppose they could have been eaten. That would be just like an hors d'oeuvre
Yeah,
for a polar bear.
yeah. So
No.
how big's a polar bear, honey?
Well, I've looked up some facts on polar bears, and they can grow up to 13 feet tall standing on their hind legs.
Which they do sometimes.
Yes, like that's a big bear. I mean, how can you even jump on that bear's back? I'd have to climb up that bear's back.
Well, they're 6 feet tall when they're on all fours, so
Well, yeah.
even that's a little bit like a horse
Yes, I'd have to.
with
I'd
claws and teeth.
put a saddle on that bad boy. I'll ride him back into the woods. Don't worry, honey. I will protect you. People say, well, what does a polar bear eat? The answer is anything they want to. How to survive a polar bear attack. I looked this up and it wasn't real encouraging. It said bear spray is 98% effective. Firearms are harder to use because people don't have much practice shooting something that's running at them. I mean, how often do you get to shoot at a polar bear that's running towards you? Firearms are only effective 76% of the time. Most of the guys that I talk to that carry a gun with them for protection out in the wild, they seem to like a 44 Magnum or a 10 millimeter semi-auto. That's a lot of gun with a lot of recoil. But they say if the polar bear attacks you, playing dead won't help much because they'll just eat you. Fighting back may not help much either because they're incredibly powerful predators with sharp everything. That being said, your best line of defensive attack is to go for the eyes and the nose.
13 feet high, it's going to be tough to
I,
reach,
I
though.
know you got to hold on tight and fight. If you survive, you'll be one of the lucky ones. That is not encouraging to me.
No.
Should you happen to survive a polar bear attack, the silver lining is that you can write an amazing book about it. Maybe that's what I should do, honey.
No, there's got to be a better way.
I could write a bestseller if I survive. These bears are just incredible. They can get up to 1,764 pounds in weight. That's for the male. But the females are only about 800 pounds. So if I get attacked, I want to be attacked by a female.
Okay.
And I seem to have that effect on women. All right, Sarah, what's coming up after the break?
After the break, we'll speak with Royce Bartlett, the host of the Shooting Straight Radio podcast, all about the DEI movement. Then we'll discuss a self-defense scenario in our shootingclasses.com self-defense report with Royce Bartlett from Florida about an Ohio home invasion.
In the meantime, God bless and stay safe because we will be right back.
Firearms training should be easy. Instructors can focus on teaching and not worry about all the complex paperwork and management behind the scenes. Just pull the trigger and let us do the administrative work. Welcome to shootingclasses.com.
At Center Shot Gun Range, we are passionate about training. Don't know where to start? We offer a 1-hour new shooter seminar to introduce you to the world of firearms and help you find training opportunities specific to you. Concealed carry, home defense, firearm safety, AR-15, private one-on-one training, custom training, or maybe you're on a security team looking to protect your church or business. We even offer weekday morning and evening classes. Center Shot Gun Range has you covered. Start your journey at centershotgunrange.com.
Firearms training should be easy. Instructors can focus on teaching and not worry about all the complex paperwork and management behind the scenes. Just pull the trigger and let us do the administrative work. Welcome to shootingclasses.com.
Some say his face is painfully ugly, and I agree. But who cares? This is radio. Welcome back to the Home Defense Show with Skip Coryell.
And that was the beautiful and sultry voice of Golden Glenn, the official announcer of the Home Defense Show. Folks, we live in a dangerous world, and I want you to be able to protect and defend the ones you love. And that's why I have this show. It's my way of empowering you to accomplish one of your primary jobs in life. You are a protector and a defender. Before we get too far into the show, don't forget to check out our sponsors, United States Concealed Carry Association, shootingclasses.com, and Center Shot Indoor Gun Range for all your training and equipment needs. And now I would like to welcome Royce Bartlett to the show. He's a new friend of mine from Florida and a staunch advocate of the right to keep and bear arms. Royce, welcome to the Home Defense Show.
Glad to be back with you, Skip. Thanks for the invite, brother. How you doing?
I am doing fantastic. I'm just enjoying the weather here inside my house in the great northern woods of Michigan. And I know it's rough down there. It's really rough in Florida these days, isn't it?
Yeah, it is actually. The temperature outside is about the same as it is inside your house right now, I understand.
Yes.
So about 73 degrees.
Yeah. I've only been to Florida twice in my whole life. I've been there in January and I've been there in August. Guess which one I like better?
I'm going to assume January.
That's right. It was fantastic in January, but August, it's like, man, you could die down there. It's terrible.
Well, it is definitely something that if you're not acclimated for it, you might want to get you a good condo on the beach with a lot of with a good air conditioner and a lot of sunscreen. So, well, but the days of winter down here are really nice, both of them. So.
Oh yeah. Hey, both of them. All right. Well, up here in Michigan, they have the same joke about the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, because that's as far north as you can go without hitting another country. They'll say things like, summer came on a Thursday this year, because that's basically, they just have one day of summer and the rest is all winter. But anyways, man, you've got this Shooting Straight podcast, and I think it's great. I was listening to it the other day again. And I appreciate the way you shoot straight. And so, man, I've got some questions, some hard topics. They're hard for most people, but maybe they'll just roll off your tongue like they're natural. So you ready to dive in?
Dive in, brother.
All right. This whole diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI. What do you think about that?
How much time do we have, Skip?
Well, we've got about 8 minutes in this segment and then 10 in the next.
Okay. Number one, I believe it is Marxist inspired. I believe it is another tactic to sow confusion amongst the people of the United States. It's very easy to defeat a confused people. Matter of fact, that's one of the goals on a battlefield, especially a modern day battlefield. But matter of fact, all battlefields from history. Whenever you can get your enemies so confused that they don't know who's doing what, they don't know where the enemy is, and they don't know whether to scratch their watch or wind their butt, they are easily routed. Matter of fact, there's a lot of biblical examples of that too, where confusion was sowed amongst the enemy, like Gideon, for instance. With a mere 300 people, he wiped out the Midianites by just causing confusion. They turned around and started killing each other. And that's kind of what's going on here in the U.S. People are turning on each other. The people that are infected with this DEI garbage, because the news media said it, so it must be true. And they will turn on you and I if we tell them it's a bunch of crap. And they get us fighting each other. Well, that's perfect. That's optimum, because as long as we're watching each other, we're not watching the real enemies. And Marxism has a very firm foothold in this country. Unfortunately, it is now polluting our military to a very grave degree. It has polluted just about every institution in this country. But worse than that, it is now enforced by our government, and for lack of a better term, literally at gunpoint, because they will come and enforce it on you. And this DEI garbage has caused this nation so much damage, it would take, goodness, I'm going to guesstimate at least 10 years if we shut it all down right now and outlawed it even. It would take years to undo the damage that's been done, because once people who don't think for themselves have a notion in their head that was planted there by the media or whoever, they don't like to admit they've been fooled. And they will hang on to a lie for the longest time. And it's so hard to pry them off of it with the facts. So it's a tactic of America's enemies, for lack of a better way to put it.
This is Skip Coryell on the Home Defense Show. We're speaking with Royce Bartlett from the Shooting Straight podcast. You know, I never really looked at it from that angle. You're talking about sowing confusion amongst the American public. But man, if you could only use one word to describe the American public right now, it would be confused, because we're talking about, an entire culture, 300 million people, and people will come up and it's like they don't even know if they're a man or a woman these days.
Yes,
And they
exactly.
can't even define. They go, what is a woman? Oh, well, whatever you want it to be. And it's like, I'm sorry, but that is just not true. But so many people bought into this DEI crap that, it divide and conquer. We are totally divided and we're totally confused right now.
Yes, and I tell you what, you said there people don't know what they are. That's confusion. And then they say that there's more than two genders. Well, chromosomes don't lie. I'm sorry. You talk about trust the science, but they do everything but. Not only that, notice something else. It's along that same line, DEI. You notice the assault on masculinity.
Oh, yeah.
That has been going on in this country via the media and other propaganda outlets. What happened shortly after they began to decry masculinity as toxic? Well, next thing you know, they start talking. They've got kids and grown men making appointments with doctors to have their manhood severed surgically and be transformed into a woman. This is the kind of power that a lie has. And that is why we need to be so steeped in the truth these days that nothing else matters.
The encouraging thing for me, and this is one thing that I've noticed in life, is that lies can be incredibly powerful, but they have a shelf
life. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you can fool somebody for only so long, and then people get upset when they figure out that you've been lying to them, and they kind of take it personally. So,
Well, they do, but then that's when they come along with the next lie. And
yep.
then when you get mad about that, come along with the next one. And they keep people in a state of confusion. I talk to people all the time that say, I just don't know what's going on in this country anymore. And that's confusion.
Yeah,
That's where we're at as a nation.
Royce, you're not going to believe this, but we're out of time for this segment already. But we're going to come back. We're going to dig into this, a little bit deeper. During the break, I want all you folks to get off your lazy butts and do some sit-ups, strengthen that core, because we all know that a healthy, fit person fights better and is harder to kill. God bless and stay safe. We will be right back.
They say he eats crayons and his knuckles drag on the ground, but that's only half true. Welcome back to the Home Defense Show with Skip Coryell.
Okay, folks, welcome back to the Home Defense Show. I'm your host, Skip Coryell, and now let's continue our conversation with Royce Bartlett from Shooting Straight Podcast. Royce, I looked up diversity, equity, and inclusion in Wikipedia, and it says diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI, are organizational frameworks which seek to promote the fair treatment and full participation of all people, particularly groups who have historically been underrepresented or subject to discrimination on the basis of identity or disability. One thing that I've noticed with the far left is they make up all kinds of stuff, like DEI. It's not even a thing. It's man-made. It's artificial. And then they give it these names and terms that sound really good to someone who doesn't know which end of the barrel the round comes out of.
Ain't that the truth? I tell you what else this is, though. This is a power grab. People don't know what they're doing, and we think the enemy is across the sea somewhere. It's not. It's in our state houses. It's in our government in Washington, D.C., and they're the ones that want us this confused, because then they can come along as the hero and say, we're going to enforce this for you. We're going to make sure you get treated fairly. Well, the government's job was never, and the founders never intended for the government to be someone or an entity that will come along and make everything fair for everybody. Equal opportunity, yes. Equal outcome, no. They have no business aiding in or interfering with our pursuits of happiness. That's the problem. Here's the thing. For government to make things fair, let's say half the country had wings and they could fly. Like the angels. They could fly from one state to the other and avoid all the TSA hassles and everything. Wouldn't that be great? But then the people without wings say, we feel discriminated against and we want the government to fix this. Well, the government doesn't have the ability to give you wings. They don't have the ability to help you grow wings. The only way they can make it equal is to take all the wings off and break the wings off everybody who has wings. That personifies government equality enforcement in a nutshell right there. That's all they can do. They have done more to crush economies with this garbage and to raise prices. Every time the government begins to demand that we business owners make things equal and make sure we enforce this equality and stuff, there's always a tax associated with it too, of course. And so you pay us this money to prove that you're in compliance with our demands. And of course, we expect you to eat that and not pass it on to your consumer. Well, we, of course, are going to pass it on to our consumer. Otherwise, we're not going to be in business long.
Right. Yeah.
And people don't understand that about government. Government, number one, is not supposed to do anything like that. It's beyond their constitutional purview. They're not allowed to. But yet, here we are.
Yeah, that reminds me of Ronald Reagan. He's one of my heroes, right?
Amen.
And that saying that he said, the most dreaded words in the English language is, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
Oh, I remember hearing them say that too back in the 80s. I'm
Yeah.
Ronald Reagan, and the worst word you could hear from a government agent is, "We're from the government and here to help."
I don't want your help.
Yes,
Just leave
thank
me
you.
alone.
Yeah, that's it. Leave me alone. Don't help me. Don't
Yeah.
help me above somebody else. Just get out of my way and get out of my wallet for sure.
Yeah.
And then we'll do just fine without you. Unfortunately, we're at the point now where we have to get permission to do anything from them.
Oh, I
It's
know.
ridiculous beyond measure. And proof of that, if you want to see how good the government helps, just look at the FEMA response, not only up in North Carolina, but down here in my home state. When they're driving past Trump supporter signs in the homes, homes with Trump signs in them, what does that tell you?
They're not here to help.
That's the answer right there, buddy.
This is Skip Coryell on Home Defense Show. We're speaking with Royce Bartlett from Shooting Straight Radio Podcast. This whole DEI stuff, I guess this started somewhat during the Obama administration. What do you know about that, Royce?
I believe that's exactly, well, it got a foothold under Bill Clinton way back when, but yes, Obama began to put it into overdrive. I'm going to probably say some things that are going to annoy some of your listeners, but Obama is a flaming Bolshevik. I actually call him Barack the Bolshevik all the time. He's a Marxist. He is a communist. He did grave amounts of damage to this country by fundamentally transforming it into a Marxist hellhole, and that's the slope we're on right now, sadly. But yeah, I think it started badly under him too.
Well, he did warn us that he was going to fundamentally change our
Yes,
society.
but people didn't understand what he was actually saying.
Yeah,
That's the bad part.
He,
Here's my thing. If you want diversity, okay, we've already got that here. It's e pluribus unum, out of many, one. Many diverse nations, races, and what have you, all brought together under one banner and one umbrella of the Constitution of the United States and Old Glory. If you want equity, it's found by arming yourself and training yourself. The old saying that back in the Old West was, yes, God, one guy said, God didn't make all men equal, Samuel Colt did.
Yeah.
Well, I'll disagree. All men were created equal, but if you want to claim that equality, you better arm yourself. That's the thing. Down here in Florida, as a matter of fact, we had the Ocoee massacres back in the early 1900s here, and the Rosewood massacre, where a bunch of racist white people went into black neighborhoods and began killing them. And those black people took up Winchesters and started shooting back, and suddenly that garbage stopped real quick. Well, what did they do? They were claiming their equality, and they did it at the point of a gun. And that's how they became included under the Second Amendment banner with the rest of us. So that's my diversity, equity, and inclusion right there.
Yeah, that sounds great. I have a lot of diversity in my life. I've got Smith & Wessons. I've got Rugers. I've got I've got the full gamut. And people always ask me, well, how many guns do you have? And I go, how am I supposed to know? I mean, they're in all the gun safes, but I never really counted them.
If you know how many, you don't have enough. That's my
exactly. That's exactly right.
All of my ARs, however many they may be, most of them, actually, two of them are the same brand as the other. The rest of them are all very diverse, and that's the way I'm going to keep it.
So what is your favorite carry gun, Royce?
Mine's a Glock 19 Gen 5. I put the extended beaver tail grip on it. I don't use a red dot because, number one, what I know about most defensive shootings is you don't have a chance to get behind your sights. Rarely will you get a chance to do that. I don't train with my sights. I train point shooting, and literally I train at 45 feet for center mass point shoot. And the only time that I will make an aim shot is if I've already double tapped that center mass, and then I will turtle my shoulders up to bring my pistol into my sight line and make that critical shot to the center of the face, usually aiming for the tip of the nose. That way, if I'm off only by an inch one way or the other, it doesn't matter. I also take my regular iron sights on my Glock 19 and my 17, and I train at 100 yards on a 16-inch iron plate or steel plate.
Yeah, it makes it easier. I train at distance too. You know, it gets more difficult as you get older because your eyesight, isn't as good.
Mm-hmm.
But you still got to do it. And the Glock 19 that you have, that's kind of like owning a 57 Chevy. It's a classic.
Oh yeah.
And it's built well, it's solid, it's tough, and it just flat out does the job. So, all right, well, hey, believe it or not, we're out of time again for this segment, Royce. I want to hold you over to the fourth segment so that we can talk about the shootingclasses.com self-defense report. And so can you stay for one more segment?
Absolutely.
Okay, folks, during the break, I want you to log into rumble.com and search on the Home Defense Show. I've posted a short and funny video there named How to Solve the New Jersey Drone Problem. I have other educational and funny videos there as well. I think you'll like it. Well, God bless and stay safe. We will be right back.
Firearms training should be easy. Instructors can focus on teaching and not worry about all the complex paperwork and management behind the scenes. Just pull the trigger and let us do the administrative work. Welcome to shootingclasses.com.
At Center Shot Gun Range, we are passionate about training. Don't know where to start? We offer a 1-hour new shooter seminar to introduce you to the world of firearms and help you find training opportunities specific to you. Concealed carry, home defense, firearm safety, AR-15, private one-on-one training, custom training, or maybe you're on a security team looking to protect your church or business. We even offer weekday morning and evening classes. Center Shot Gun Range has you covered. Start your journey at centershotgunrange.com.
Firearms training should be easy. Instructors can focus on teaching and not worry about all the complex paperwork and management behind the scenes. Just pull the trigger and let us do the administrative work. Welcome to shootingclasses.com.
He's no Einstein, but he can read and write and feed himself just like a big boy. Welcome back to the Home Defense Show with Skip Coryell.
And that was a beautiful and sultry voice of Golden Glenn, the official announcer of the Home Defense Show, and I'm your host, Skip Coryell. Don't forget to check out our sponsors, United States Concealed Carry Association, shootingclasses.com, and Center Shot Indoor Gun Range for all your training and equipment needs. And now it's time for our weekly self-defense report, sponsored by shootingclasses.com. And today we're speaking with firearms instructor Royce Bartlett from the great state of Florida. All right, Royce. Basically, I'll read part of an article, and then you are going to dissect it, and I'll just chime in wherever I'm needed, okay?
Works for me, brother.
It says, Ohio homeowner's armed response ends intruder's break-in attempt. An Ohio resident experienced a harrowing encounter early Sunday morning when he heard an unusual noise on his balcony. Upon investigating, he discovered an intruder inside his home. The homeowner responded by opening fire, and the alleged intruder later succumbed to his injuries at a hospital. This incident took place in Westchester, a town located roughly 30 minutes north of Cincinnati. Authorities were alerted to the situation around 5 a.m., and they reported that initial findings suggest the homeowner heard suspicious activity outside and confronted the intruder within his residence. Wilson noted that the homeowner is cooperating fully with the police investigation. A neighbor who resides across the apartment complex where the event unfolded expressed her shock and concern during an interview. She described the incident as very shocking and disturbing, adding that she never anticipated such an event occurring in her neighborhood. Her worries now extend to the safety of her children. The community's reaction, particularly on social media, has largely been supportive of the homeowner's actions. One commentator remarked on the Facebook post, "Well, that's the risk he assumed by choosing being a criminal instead of a decent, productive citizen." They acknowledged the consequences of the intruder's choices, emphasizing personal accountability. Basically, that's the gist. We don't know a lot of details, but we do know what the people in the community were saying about it. So what are your initial comments, Royce?
Well, I agree with them on that. I'll tell you, let's start from the top. I like what it says, an Ohio resident experienced a harrowing encounter. I want to let everybody know right now, these things will jack your adrenaline through the roof so bad that it'll suck the moisture out of your mouth so bad you can spit a sweater out of it. I've been in several situations. I will tell you right now, the first one, 2 hours after the incident, the adrenaline dump that took over my body physiologically was wow. I couldn't stop vomiting.
Oh, wow.
And then I couldn't stop dry heaving because I didn't have nothing left to throw up. So I want people to understand that, yeah, while you may be armed and you may think you're ready, you don't know nothing until you're faced with somebody and they're in your home. The violation that will come over you and that you will feel is going to be palpable, really. So make sure you have a plan. Number one, make sure you have a good, secure exterior. Make sure all your doors and windows have some extra locks and things on them. Not so much that you couldn't get out of your house if it was on fire, of course, but make sure you beef up the exterior. I like what it says. The homeowner responded by opening fire. And my comment there is perfect response. And people say, well, what if they're in my home, but they're not armed? Shoot them. Down in Florida, down here, the castle doctrine is very plain. The state of Florida presumes that you were in fear of grave bodily injury or death just from them being in your home. And that makes sense to me. If you're in my home and I don't know you, it's shoot time. If you don't prone out immediately, you got about a half a second to live. I'm sorry, the guys I train with and the way I train, you're probably not going to survive the encounter. No one's going to take multiple shots to the face. I like what else it said. It said around 5 a.m., and this is a point I bring out on my program all the time. Evil never sleeps. It's always on the prowl. These things happen at all hours of the day and night. They often happen in people's driveways, too. So don't presume because you're in your driveway, you're safe. It may be a two-legged critter. It might even be a four-legged critter who's frothing at the mouth, but you better be ready to defend yourself, and you better have a firearm on your person. I've told people this before. If you see me outside my house, count on me having a firearm. As far as I'm concerned, I'm stepping into the danger zone. And oftentimes I'm walking around inside my home with a gun on because I know that door could splinter in any second and I might be faced with danger. I like what the lady said. The witness, the neighbor who resides across the apartment complex, she said she never anticipated such an event occurring in her neighborhood. Now that you know it can, you better prepare, especially since she says her worries now extend to the safety of her children. Your worry should have been there already. Yeah. Honestly, you should have been thinking about this already. But I'm glad it was a wake-up call for her. And maybe now she'll purchase a firearm and she'll learn to use it and learn to carry it and learn when not to use it too. And we'll learn the laws of her state, what she should and shouldn't do. But we must be prepared in the face of evil at all times, even if it's in our own home, because it never sleeps. It's always working. There's a reason police departments are open 24/7. Let's just say that.
This is Skip Coriella, and you're listening to the Self-Defense Report, sponsored by shootingclasses.com. Royce, I agree with you. Some people, when they have someone violate the sanctity of their home, they are so traumatized by it that they actually have to sell their house and move someplace else because emotionally they just can't deal with it.
Yes, sir. That is very true. A buddy of mine, E.J. Owens, who has a nationally syndicated program like yours called Legally Concealed. He has remarked on several occasions how after there has been a defensive shooting inside the home that the wife will flat out tell the husband, I ain't living here another day. Yeah. And so you better go ahead and back your moving van on up there too. That's why I tell people, look, the exterior of your home is the first line of defense. Make sure they can't breach it or that they will give you enough notice that you'll be waiting on them when they come in. This guy, he heard noise on his balcony, and by the time he got in that area, the guy was already in the home. How'd he get in so quickly? Well, I got a feeling that door was unlocked. That is an absolute blippity blanking no-no. My family knows you walk through an exterior door, you lock it behind you. They've locked me out of the house before. I don't care. They'll, well, I'm sorry, Dad. No, don't you apologize for doing what Dad told you to do.
That's right.
You walk through an exterior door and you know everybody else is inside. You lock it behind you immediately because a lot of these things start with unlocked doors.
It's the same way at my house. I have 3 teenagers at home, and they've been trained since they were toddlers on what to do, how to act. If you see anything unusual, you come and get mommy and daddy. You see a car in the driveway, someone walking down the road, you just come and get us so that we can do the right thing. And my kids, man, they have saved our bacon, more than once just by being aware and coming and telling us what to do. So all good stuff.
Yeah, I tell people, just because you're in your home, don't you assume you're safe for a second. Don't assume that at all. And well, I was really happy. I took my missus out on one of our rare dates that we get to have every once in a blue moon. Our 16-year-old son, I have trained him, not as much as I'd like to have him trained. I haven't had the time, but he also trains in mixed martial arts, and he's a fantastic jiu-jitsu practitioner. I know he can defend himself with his hands, but I've also told him, well, jiu-jitsu doesn't work against bullets. And we came home from a date one night, and I was happy to see one of my Glock 17s on the coffee table as he was out there watching TV. And I nodded my head and I said, good job, son. Good job.
All right. Well, Royce, we are out of time again, but
Dang
hey,
it, man.
I know, but before you go, tell people how they can listen to your show.
It's on any of the major podcast platforms. It's, Spotify, Amazon, you name it, it's on it. Also, my shootingclasses.com page is on shootingclasses.com. They can find me there.
Awesome. All right. Well, Royce, thank you very much for being on Home Defense Show today.
Skip, thanks for having me again, man. I really have enjoyed the mess out of it. I really appreciate it. We'll do it again soon. I'd like to have you on my program soon, and not as a quid pro quo, because I appreciate your viewpoint. I appreciate your love for the Second Amendment and the Constitution.
I'm looking forward to it. All right, folks, this is Skip Coryell on Home Defense Show, and that about wraps it up for this week's show. I've had a good time, and I hope you have too. Please don't forget to thank our sponsor, CenterShot Indoor Gun Range at centershotgunrange.com, shootingclasses.com to help you find the right trainer for your needs, and the United States Concealed Carry Association. For all your self-defense needs, go to uscca.com. I've written 20-plus books, and they're all available on Amazon.com in paperback, ebook, and audiobook. This week, check out my book, The God Virus, a 4-book apocalyptic adventure series. And if you want training from me in person, then check out Midwest Tactical Training at shootingclasses.com. Please join us again next week for all your home defense needs. In the meantime, God bless and stay safe.
Thank you for joining us this week on the Home Defense Show. Now, get out there and protect the ones you love. We'll see you next week with more of the best.
Bye-bye, boys!
Have fun storming the castle!